Hi, this is Davey Goode. I'm going to right now talk about how we can shield effectively all the cavities on a Telecaster. Okay, so we're going to do this shielding job on the Telecaster or on any guitar. Come to that, there's a few tools we need. We've got a decent screwdriver, we've got a craft knife, some side cutters to cut the cable, some scissors. I have some copper shielding tape here, and we have some solder, just regular electronic solder, and a soldering iron. So that's pretty much what we need. Pen and paper just to take some notes if we need to. We're going to look at shielding the neck cavity on this guitar, and we're also going to look at shielding the rear of the pickguard for this guitar. What I have is I have some copper shielding tape here, right, which you know, we sell kind of by the foot for doing this kind of stuff, and it's really handy stuff. So I'm just going to go from that edge, kind of see where I need to go, put a bend back on there, and if I want to overlap a little bit on this side, just get my scissors, cut myself, you know, 1/8 of an inch too much there. You know, we don't have to be too accurate with this game. Remove the backing tape from the foil, pop the foil in place, and that, we're going to go nicely up to that line, and we're just going to press it in all the way. Press it in nicely, and we've got a little bit of an overhang here, which is fine. We want it to overhang just a little bit in certain places. So with this tape that I'm using, it's kind of it's a real thin kind of foil type kind of tape. Cuts really nice and easy with scissors. But what I'll also show you as well is if we didn't have scissors, this stuff rips really easily with your fingers, right? So this is a 1/1000 thick tape, and pretty similar to what you use with kitchen foils and everything. It's adhesive backed. If you get anything any thicker, it can be a little tricky to cut, and to be quite honest, the thickness of the foil that you put in here isn't going to make any difference, you know. And just so that it's kind of nicely shielded, I'm going to fill all these little gaps here with little bits of tape. So we've just finished putting all the foil in there, and what you can see is I've got myself a nice little patchwork quilt of copper foil now in the cavity. Over the top of the cavity I've just left 1/8 of an inch overhang onto the top of the guitar body. Now that's not you know, 1/8 of an inch or 1/16 of an inch or even more. It's not a critical factor, but we do need to leave a little bit of an overhang there in places. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the pickguard that we're going to use, and that kind of is going to sit over the top of that cavity. So on the back of the pickguard here, I'm just going to take a piece of foil that's actually big enough, if we put the piece of foil over the top, to actually cover the cavity. You know, I've seen people actually cover the entirety of the back of the pickguard here with shielding, thinking it's going to be a better job, but that's not the case at all. It's kind of ludicrous to do that. All you really need to do is have enough there to go over the top of this cavity. Okay, take the back off here. Let's just pop that on. Right, just take a craft knife. Just this stuff cuts really easily, so just be careful when you're using a craft knife. But you know, if you follow the indentation around with your thumb, it gives you a nice little mark where you're going to cut, and just cut up to that edge. Follow that round, and it cuts like butter, does this stuff. There we go. So let's remove the control plate here. Let's just pop that aside, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of cable, and let's just get a piece of cable that's going to be long enough to go to the bottom of here, so let's say somewhere there. Thread through our wire in there, go through a hole here and join up with one of these screw holes down here. So give yourself a nice little piece of cable, right? Strip the end, 1/2 inch of the cable, and just roll the cable together. What I've then got is just going to bring a little piece of pad over here because I don't like to do soldering over the top of guitars. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to tin the ends of this this cable with the soldering iron onto the bare ends of the wire. Okay, so they're tinned enough. Let's move this out of the way. So now that I've got this cable with the two ends cut, I'm just going to thread that cable through the hole in there into the control cavity. Pull it up with my little finger there. So, two options here. We can actually solder this cable onto the back of a pot, or we could solder it to the plate, or we could just go into the screw hole there. You know, they're all going to be adequate ways of kind of making a contact. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just solder that onto the back of the pot. Here, that onto the back of the pot there. So that's now taken. So we've got a good connection on the back of this pot. I'm going to pop the control plate back in place, sitting in there nicely. The good thing about this this foil is you can solder onto it quite easily. So okay, so we're just going to get a nice little pull of solder happening on the bottom of this the foil down there. We've already tinned the end of the cable. Just sit the end of the cable on the top of the pull of solder I've got there. Just make sure we've got a nice wet joint happening there. So that cable is now connecting this shielding to this plate, and in turn this plate through the grounding is to this plate and to this pickup. So we're fully shielded all the way through the instrument right now. So what I'm going to do right now is just start popping a few screws back together. Next we're going to take our pick guard and we're going to take the two pickup screws, pop the screws through the pickup. There we go. Now we're going to put the rubber sleeves on the back of the screws. Just dropped a screw out of there. Been a little too hasty. There we go. Now what I can do is I can sit the pickup on the back and the two screw holes there. Just get the screws started. Okay, so now let's turn this over and take a look underneath. So with the pick guard flipped here, we can see the metal on the pickup cover in there and the shielding on the back here. So what I like to do is I like to make sure that we've got a good ground contact and electrical contact between the cover and the shielding. So I take a small piece of cable, you know, about 1.5 inches long, and just going to solder the end of the cable on one end to the bottom of the pickup cover there, and then on the other end I'm just going to solder to the shielding. So make sure that any work you do here with cable or soldering is confined to where it's going to sit nicely in that cavity. So I'll try and do it so that you can see it. I'm just going to tin the copper foil. Okay, get a little bit of solder kind of flowing on the cable, and just regular kind of cable's fine for this. It's, you know, it can be single-stranded or multi-stranded cable. You don't want anything too heavy, and you know, we've just got a nice contact now between the shielding and the pickup. So in effect, when we assemble this, the pickup itself is going to be sitting in this nice little copper box, right, which is going to shield us from a lot of unwanted signals, and so hopefully we're going to alleviate a lot of that nasty buzz we were getting before. And that's how to fully shield that pocket.